Joining me now to discuss it all, Democratic strategist Joel Payne, Democratic strategist Fatima O'Mara, co-founder of All In Together Lauren Leader, and former spokeswoman for the California Republican Party, Jen Kerns. Big welcome to you all for getting up early with me. Jen, I'm going to reach out to you first here. How is what the president did yesterday anything more than a political stunt? Because if he had a new proposal, why not just bring it straight to Democrats rather than make such a, meal of it all, bringing up the same old stuff we heard about drugs and rapists? I mean, some are calling this political grandstanding.
Well, look, there were some serious policy considerations in the president's announcement yesterday, including the $800 million for humanitarian assistance, which I thought was a good start. He has set into place answering some of the questions that the Democrats have been posing to him, which are, what about something more than a wall? How about some scanning for, drug detection, smuggling detection, which he has put into the plan. You also have him increasing the number of immigration judges. That would certainly help the logjam there at the border. It would help those separation of family issues that Democrats seem to care so much about. And look, I think it was really interesting that the president came back to the table and actually offered this. Nancy Pelosi has been nowhere to be seen, has not come back to the table on this.
I get what you're saying. And a lot of this stuff, he is now implementing ideas that Democrats have proposed. And maybe there is an acquiescence to a degree. But why not go straight to the Democrats? Why put up this, 13 minutes long? We're all waiting. It's 3 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock. A big tweet. I mean, was that just grandstanding? Wouldn't it have been more effective to just go right to the Democrats and say, let's get this done? I'm the big deal maker. Let's get it done.
Well, look, he is the big deal maker. He's the master of the art of the deal. And look, it's a situation.
Are you still calling him the art of the deal right now, master right now?
Yes, I am. Look, don't hate the player, hate the game.
This is too early. Alex, it's too early. This is making me laugh.
No, you cannot blame the president for wanting to go in there and share this directly with the American people. You look at the public polling information.
Okay. Well, look, we've got a couple people who do want to either blame the president or at least react to it. Joel, you first.
No.
Yeah, I mean, number one, what would help stop ending the policy of separating families is if the president would stop separating families and putting kids in cages at the border.
So like Barack Obama did in 2013, 2014.
That's number one. Number two, good morning, Jen. Good morning, Jen. Hi. Number two, the president should actually consult his Secretary of Xenophobia, Ann Coulter, because he doesn't have necessarily a problem on the left. Democrats do want to make a deal. That's why they've voted to reopen the government 9 times. It's his Republican base that doesn't want to deal on the shutdown. They don't want to deal on immigration because it's not about actually fixing immigration. It's about installing a mean-spirited, ugly, nasty policy that separates families, that kowtows to a Republican base that's shrinking. That's all this is about.
There's nothing mean-spirited about the president's proposal, which actually puts into place 50,000 additional beds so that children don't have to sleep on floors and in cages like they did during the Barack Obama administration.
I want to bring into the conversation what my colleague Mike Vaquera did. He was speaking with Tim Kaine yesterday before Trump's announcement. Here's what he said.
Look, reopen government, and then there'd be a lot to talk about in a proposal like that. But I really do believe that first reopen government. So I hope what he's going to say is, I'll reopen government and I'm willing to entertain this. Let's sit down and talk.
Lauren, the Democrats dismissed the president's proposal even before he gave his speech, at least for appearance sake. Might that be a risky move? I mean, do you fear the Democrats might appear to be just as unwilling to compromise as they accuse the president of being?
Well, the polls don't seem to bear that out. But I think, look, at the end of the day, I mean, this whole question about deal or no deal, I mean, it is sort of ridiculous. The vice president and Jared Kushner and, frankly, the president have not actually done the work on the Hill, which is the standard work that you do if you are actually trying to make a deal that passes. The bill that they are now talking about is not going to pass. I mean, Mitch McConnell knows it's not going to pass, which then is their sort of political calculus to try to put this back on Democrats. And, my colleague here, a minute ago said it's true. The Democrats have, in fact, passed the spending bill. They passed 9 times a bill to reopen the government. They had a bill on January 19th or January 18th that went to the president, which everyone expected he was going to sign. Even Mitch McConnell was caught off guard when the the president said suddenly now he was going to attach all this border wall stuff to it. I mean, the way that Washington works is not by press conference, and the president has tried repeatedly to manipulate public opinion in order to make policy, and that's not how it works. These are extraordinarily complex issues. We've been working on it, trying to work on immigration reform for the better part of the last decade. I mean, we forget that President Bush, who, by the way, won over 30% of the Hispanic vote because of a sincere and meaningful commitment to trying to create a better immigration system that recognized the hardship of hardworking families who want to come to America and make it better and make a better life for themselves. He had real support on both sides, and even he wasn't able to make a deal. So to try to do this under duress with the government shut down, holding 800,000 workers in hostage is outrageous. And, you know, by the way, it is worth noting that last night the president did not say one word about the hardship that these poor families are facing. And so it just tells you like where the value in this process is. It's heartbreaking.
Look, Atima, Democrats have been taking this stance that funding a border wall would be immoral. However, back in early 2018, the Democrats were willing to trade $25 billion in border wall funding for a path to citizenship for the Dreamers. So how can they justify their current assertion of a moral high ground when 11 months ago it really wasn't a question of morality?
Well, good that you brought that up, actually, Alex, because it was $25 billion for border security for 10 to 14 years of a path to citizenship for DACA recipients, right? Mm-hmm. He turned that down. He agreed to it first. Initially, Trump agreed to it first. Then he turned it down after talking to his immigration hawk.
But I mean, who was he talking to? And don't you think if he looks back at this, he's thinking, wow, why didn't I accept that?
Well, he turned it down, Alex, because of his immigration hawk and, Deputy Secretary of Xenophobia, Stephen Miller, right? He turned that down. Then DHS asked for a certain amount. I think it was up to $10 million. Specifically, Senate Appropriations was like, okay, here's your $10 billion that you want. And then Trump said that still wasn't good enough. So, to concern troll, which is basically what he's doing, especially after being the king of we don't want immigrants in this country. Let's end birthright citizenship. The caravans are coming. All of that lead up to the election. Now for him to say, I'll give you temporary protection for DACA recipients, which we had at one point. Temporary protection for temporary protected status, people who are already supposed to be under temporary protected status because of the status of their nations. And then to say, on top of that, I'm going to also give you back government workers. I'm going to open the government if you give me my $5.7 billion. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's literally he's holding these people hostage for $5.7 billion, but he's been offered deals before in the past that he has turned down.
You just described the perfect negotiation and just proved my point.
$5.7 billion of taxpayers' money. Oh, gosh, I thought Mexico was going to be paying for that. Joel, to you,
that's too.
800,000 people are right now on the cusp of missing another paycheck, all because of this. In the big picture, does anyone have the moral high ground here? I mean, how does anyone justify playing games like this when you've got 800,000 innocent people pretty much playing the pawn here?
Look, I've worked in government a long time, and people don't tend to separate out Washington from Washington. They tend to see it as a pox on everybody's houses. But in this case, the president has stepped out in front and said, I own this shutdown. And you see the poll numbers reflected, and you see, frankly, how the congressional leaders around him are pushing this back on the president. Mitch McConnell drove this compromise yesterday because he's got members that are getting savaged out there. And so I actually think that the president is taking on a lot of water from this terrible policy. And I think what you saw yesterday is a really feeble attempt for him to try to push the responsibility off from himself and from his White House onto Democrats. I don't think it's going to work.
Hey, Alex,
it's a completely 100%
he's actually not taking on. He's not
crisis.
taking on water. He's not taking on that much water. I'll tell you this: as someone who has lived and died by the poll numbers at the ballot box the last 15 years, he has lost exactly 2 to 3 percentage points over 30 days with the government shutdown. I do believe, and this might be controversial to say, I do believe it is possible the government shutdown could go on for 65 or 70 days with Donald Trump losing only about 5 to 7 percentage points in the polls.
And you're comfortable with that, Jen.
I didn't say I'm comfortable with it, and I'm not comfortable with people going without paychecks. But here's what I do know. The American people have now seen that the government is still functioning with 85% of them furloughed, and that is not a good day at the office for Nancy Pelosi.
Look, government functioning,
this is a 100% manufactured crisis by Donald Trump, and he is trying to hold additional folks hostage for some deal that is not even going to be acceptable if you're not considering actually giving permanent protections to these people, which he stripped protections from to begin with. It's absolutely absurd.
And the government may be functioning at a 75% threshold, but we are coming up going to talk about the economy and how that may suffer, and that is nothing that Donald Trump wants to have in his ownership, that's for sure.
Agreed.
Listen, great to talk with all four of you this morning. Thank you so much. Good to see you. And not only are the furloughed federal workers feeling the pain from the government shutdown, but as I was